There's more nerve cells and connections in your brain than there's stars in the Milky Way. If you decided to count them all, it'd take you 3,000 years. To make it easier for you, you have about 100 billion neurons in there. The brain can't actually feel pain. It does have a pain center, but it doesn't have pain receptors itself. When your head hurts, you can feel it because of the nerves, tissue, and blood cells around your brain. Your RAM, or working memory, is an essential thing that we need to perform almost any everyday activity, including conversations, surfing the net, and even petting your dog. Our strongest and emotional memories are often fake. The central memory gives us the confidence to believe that we remember everything, even though most of the details are made up in our heads. When we laugh, think, look at something, dream, move, or do some other activity with our body, small electrical and chemical signals run between neurons along those connections. And by that, neurons make and send more information than all the phones in the whole world. You're sitting somewhere outside and an insect lands on your leg. Your skin has sensory neurons and they quickly send the message to your brain at an impressive speed, 150 miles per hour. The brain sends back the message to your leg to shake the insect off very fast, and the speed that information travels is even bigger, 200 miles per hour. Our brain can store only 7 bits in its short-term memory. Don't even try to compare your brain with a phone's capacity, not even the one you had back in 2005. That's why you can't even learn a phone number by heart. Our short-term memory functions just like a chalkboard. You can get some information, but sooner or later, you run out of space. To check your working memory capacity, try this test. Ask a friend to write a list of 10 words and read it to you. Most people recall 7 or fewer items from the list. Synesthesia is a special and rare ability when people can taste music or hear colors. Only 1 in every 2,000 people has it. 5 basic senses are taste, touch, sight, sound, and smell. But people have more senses than that. Proprioception is when your body is aware of its parts and their position, even if you don't see them. Like if your arm is behind your back and you know it's there. If you were an octopus, you wouldn't know it. Because these creatures don't know their arms exist if they can't see them. Thermoception is your ability to sense temperature. Equilibrioception is a sense of balance. You also have nociception, which means you can feel pain. Then there's chronoception. That's how you can sense time passing by. There are even more senses found in the animal kingdom, but people don't have those. You can't recall a memory all by itself. When you're trying to think of one detail, like the color of the t-shirt your friend was wearing the other week, you'll remember some other details too. For example, the place where you saw him, things you were talking about. The hippocampus is the part of your brain that stores memories. It usually packs them together, including multiple small details. On average, taste buds last 10 days. One theory says déjà vu is some sort of a brain processing lag. Scientists think that it might happen when your brain is transferring information from one side to the other, and there's a split-second delay in that process. That means that your brain gets the same information twice and processes it as the event that happened before. It can create an illusion of falling. One of the theories that when you're dozing off, your brain sees the relaxing of your muscles as a sign you're in trouble and really falling. So it sends signals to the muscles to protect you by tensing up. You can physically see your nose, but the brain chooses to ignore it. Otherwise, it would stand in the way of your vision. Plus, it would be out of focus. Brain freeze is an annoying ice cream headache. That's how your brain tells you to slow down and maybe stop eating something that's so cold. People mostly need 7 minutes to fall asleep. This time gets shorter if you've just had a large, tasty meal. People used to dream in black and white much more than today. That's because they watched black and white TV. Around 12% of people can't dream in color nowadays. All your muscles relax at the same time right after you've fallen asleep. Your brain thinks you're about to fall asleep and sends quick signals to all of your muscles to awaken them. That's why it sometimes feels like you're literally falling. The hypnic jerk is a twitch you can experience while falling asleep. It's an abrupt muscle movement that comes during the non-REM sleep phase. If you sleep, it doesn't mean all your body sleeps. In fact, sometimes your brain has to work even harder when you're asleep. It needs to process tons of information, and reports usually take a lot of time. By the time you wake up, you'll have forgotten 50% of your latest dream. After 10 minutes, you won't remember 90% of it. When you blush, your stomach lining goes red along with your face. It happens because your sympathetic nervous system's causing an increased blood flow throughout the body. Your hair follicles have the same receptors as your nasal passages. That's why your hair can detect scents too. Sandalwood can help you develop that superpower. The nose definitely gets a good rest while you're sleeping. Amazingly, your sense of smell basically deactivates at night. You wouldn't even be bothered if there was a terrible smell in your bedroom. No comment. When you age, your brain is gradually reducing in size. By age 75, it's much smaller than at 30. And it starts shrinking by the age of 40. It happens to everyone, and it doesn't affect your mental strength in any way. No matter how hard you try, you'll never be able to tickle yourself. It's because your brain prepares the body for tickling and helps you avoid the typical laughing reaction. We recognize only purple, blue, green, yellow, and yellow-red colors. Everything else is a combination of these three. It's impossible to calculate how many of these combinations the human eye sees, because every single person has slight vision differences. But it's about 1 million combinations on average. You see? Heads up! Your skull isn't a single bone. It actually consists of 28 different bones, many of which are fused together to protect your brain. The strongest muscles in your body aren't in your arms or legs. They're in your head. The masseter is the main muscle responsible for chewing, and it needs to be the strongest for you to eat normally. And you know those muscles that allow you to move your ears? Those are temporalis, located above your temples. They also help you to chew your food. Now, we've got two really fast muscles. They control the eyelid closing. In fact, they're the fastest muscles in our body. Eyes are fragile and need protection, so the reflex that protects them needs to be as fast as lightning. These muscles can shut the eyelids in less than 1/10 of a second. Our body is made of stardust. Really. The more complex elements in our body can only come about through supernovas. The first stars were just gassy lumps that were drawn together and, at some point, started the process of combustion. This finally led to a nuclear reaction in its center. Stars that were right there after the Big Bang were over 50 times bigger than our Sun is now. Inside of them, there was a constant process of making the elements, and those large stars were burning their fuel faster. Most of the elements in the human body were formed in those stars over billions of years ago. So you could realistically say that part of you is immortal. Cool, huh?
You know when you have a stuffy nose and all you can think about are the nights you've taken smooth breathing for granted? Our bodies do a lot of work to keep us comfortable every day. So, in the spirit of staying grateful, let's take a look at a couple of these amazing things the human body does every minute. Starting with our eyes, which are constantly relaying loads of visual info to the brain. The cornea acts like an entrance gate, skillfully bending light. The iris, or the colorful part, adjusts the light dose, and the lens focuses the rest onto the retina. This last one then transforms all that light into electrical signals that are sent to the brain for interpretation. Sounds like a lot of work, but it all gets done in milliseconds. This means that in just a single minute, our brain handles somewhere around 600 million bits of visual data. More than half our bodies are made of water. 55% if you're a lady and 65% if you're a gentleman, to be precise. To make sure this water balance is always in check, our bodies come equipped with a hydration monitor. It's always looking into how much water we're losing through things like sweating or even breathing. If as little as 1% of the water quantity goes missing, we'll start to feel thirsty. We also wouldn't be here if it weren't for those hearts pumping in our chests. Well, actually, just one heart per person. The speed at which it pumps can change depending on how fit you are, your feelings, your size, and even if you're doing a new yoga pose that requires a bit more effort. On average, Doctors say adults have anywhere between 60 to 100 heartbeats per minute when they're resting. Now, the fitter you get, the less pressure you put on your heart, and you might even end up having a heart rate as low as 40 beats per minute. Each time this organ gets a little thump, it's pushing about 2.4 ounces of blood around your body. If your resting heart rate is 80 beats per minute, your heart's pushing 1.5 gallons of blood every 60 seconds. Ever wonder how fast your body bounces back after losing blood? We've got on average about 10 pints of it in our adult bodies. When one of them is lost, our bodies start working hard to replace it, and it's faster than you'd imagine. Within 24 hours, the volume loss is replaced, and within a few weeks, we're as good as new. That's because every second, our bodies make some 2 million fresh red blood cells. That's 120 million every minute. When it comes to white blood cells and platelets, the process is even faster. Our breathing mechanism is fascinating too. For grown-ups, the regular breath count is about 12 to 20 breaths per minute. Infants, however, have a faster rate of 30 to 60 breaths per minute. When you take in air, it requires the effort of an entire team. Your brain's command center sends signals down to your diaphragm, telling it to flatten out. Your ribs and abdominal muscles adjust to allow your chest to expand, pulling the air into your lungs. Breathing out is a bit easier. Your used-up air gets pushed out by your elastic lungs. But when you're putting in a bit more effort, that's when your abs help a bit more in the exhale process. Now, when it comes to reading, our brains can amp up that skill, sometimes reaching up to 1,000 words per minute. If you do the math, it means your brain can read a 300-page book in just 2.5 hours. One interesting feature about how our brain processes reading is that it doesn't necessarily do it in a straight line. In fact, our eyes do these unique movements called saccades. They're quick jumps across the text back and forth. Sometimes it's a big leap, other times a tiny hop. They help us soak in tons of information fast, and they happen a bunch of times every second. How big or small the jump is depends on how good we are at reading and how familiar we are with the topic at hand. Do you want to find out more about a variety of topics, like science, pop culture, or history? Well, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with our latest videos. Our skin is the largest organ we own, and is perpetually shedding around 30,000 cells every 60 seconds. Most of the time we don't even notice, but our faces and bodies are constantly removing layers. Yep, a lot of that dust around your house is you. It's a month-long journey for those fresh skin cells to pop up to the surface, and that process speeds up or slows down with age. During our 60s or even later, it can take up to 8 weeks for cell turnover, and that buildup of skin makes your complexions look a bit dull. Thankfully, there are a lot of products we can use these days to help with dry skin, like moisturizers and serums. You can't talk without your tongue. Well, you can technically, but most people won't understand a word you're saying. On any day, our tongue teams up with our lips and teeth to turn throat sounds into words that make sense. The tongue itself is flexible and speedy, capable of letting out more than 90 words a minute, using a variety of over 20 moves. While we can vocalize without using the tongue, we need it to pronounce consonants like T, D, L, and R, or if you're a pirate, R. This important organ is the same reason parrots can so easily imitate us, though most of them have no idea what they're saying. These birds have a thick tongue, and even though they've got fewer muscle moves, it helps them mimic human speech quite accurately. So be careful what you say around them. Humans also blink 15 to 20 times each minute. It might not sound like a lot, but it does mean we're spending about 10% of our awake time with our eyes shut. For many years, scientists believed that blinking served a single purpose: to keep our eyes moist. That's mostly why we produce tears, by the way. And with the help of our eyelids, this creates a little cover for the whole eyeball, preventing it from feeling itchy. However, blinking does more. A study from the past decade pointed out that when we blink, our brain hits a mini reset button. It powers down some parts linked to vision and attention. And since attention messes with how we perceive time, blinks could be like these time travel moments for our brains, or mini power naps if you like. Now, on average, people have around 35 to 48 thoughts per minute. It depends on a variety of things, like what we've been through, how we're feeling, and even where we are. When it comes to thought formation, we do know that brain cells can communicate. But understanding exactly how our ideas pop up in our minds is still a bit of a mystery. Our brain features many neurons, these fascinating cells shooting out electrical charges to talk to each other. It's these neurons that spill out brain chemicals called neurotransmitters. Think of it as passing notes that create electric signals, and as these signals surf through thousands of neurons, like a wave, thoughts pop up in our heads. Now, each time you munch on a snack, you're fueling up this power plant, which is your body. One single calorie from your food is around 4,200 energy units called joules. If you're eating 2,000 calories a day, you're transforming that into almost 6,000 joules every minute. And here's how everything happens. After you eat, the food follows its journey through your mouth, down into your stomach, and makes its way into small pieces in your bloodstream. Imagine tiny delivery trucks carrying oxygen and other useful substances to your cells. Once inside, these cells have many factories inside called mitochondria. They're responsible for turning those deliveries into adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. This is our cell's energy currency. It's used to make more cells, it helps us move, or even send messages through electrical impulses to other cells. Come to think of it, this sure makes me want to be nicer to my body for all it does. How about you? Well, here's some facts you'll find hard to digest. Your stomach has a pretty incredible capacity, being able to hold up to half a gallon of liquids. That's a whole large bottle of Coke. It's pretty hard to estimate how much hard food you can eat because it's processed with your teeth before it gets to your stomach. There's definitely not enough room for a turkey, but a good-sized chicken would probably fit in it. If you were asked where your stomach was, you would probably point to your tummy. Sorry, that's wrong. It's actually up here, hidden in between your ribs. Scientists believe that the appendix will disappear eventually. Nobody really knows why we need it, but some researchers claim it might have existed to help our ancestors digest tree bark. Because it's no longer part of our daily diet, the appendix isn't necessary and can disappear from our bodies without any consequences. The appendix isn't the only obsolete part of our body. Wisdom teeth aren't that useful either. Yeah, they used to come in handy whenever our ancestors lost some of their teeth, but the only thing they help us lose now is the money we spend extracting them. Almost all of our body is covered with hairs, even if we don't notice them. They grow even in the belly button. Their purpose is to catch lint. Check it out. See? Your liver acts as your own personal bodyguard, protecting you from toxins and many other things you don't want hanging around in your body. It's also pretty indestructible and can even regenerate. Only about 43% of you is actually you. Over 50% of the cells in your body belong to tiny little creatures that mainly live in your gut. Still, even though your own cells are fewer than microbial ones, there are, on average, about 100 trillion of them in you. See, you're not alone. With this in mind, your own genes are less than half of what you really consist of. If you take all the microbes dwelling within your body and count their genes, you'll find between 2 to 20 million. If you sleep, it doesn't mean all of your body sleeps. In fact, sometimes your brain has to work even harder when you're asleep. It needs to process tons of information, and reports usually take a lot of time. The nose definitely gets a good rest while you're sleeping. Amazingly, your sense of smell basically deactivates at night. You wouldn't even be bothered if there was a really terrible smell in your bedroom. No comment. The nose is probably one of the most underappreciated parts of the body. We wouldn't even be able to enjoy eating without it. About 80% of the taste of any food is thanks to the nose and its ability to recognize odors. If you hold your nose while eating, you will taste almost nothing. With no sense of smell, you're likely to recognize food mostly by texture, so an onion might seem no different than a big refreshing apple. Scientists used to believe we could distinguish about 10,000 smells, but they were wrong. Recent research showed that people are actually able to distinguish between more than 1 trillion smells. We also remember them better than anything else, and smells can even evoke some distant memories. Your nose just doesn't help you breathe and catch odors, it filters the air for sensitive throats and lungs. If we inhale dry air, the nose moistens it, cools it, and heats it if it's necessary. Also, the nose cleans the air of dirt. When you age, your brain is gradually reducing in size. By age 75, it's much smaller than at 30, and it starts shrinking by the age of 40. It happens to everyone and doesn't affect your mental strength in any way. Our brain can store only 7 bits in its short-term memory. Don't even try to compare your brain with a phone capacity, not even the one you had back in 2005. That's why you can't even learn a phone number by heart. Our short-term memory functions just like a chalkboard. You can get some information, but sooner or later, you run out of space. To check your working memory capacity, try this test. Ask a friend to write a list of 10 words and read it to you. Most people recall 7 or fewer items from that list. Your RAM, or working memory, is an essential thing that we need to perform almost any everyday activity, including basic conversations, surfing the net, and even petting your dog. Our strongest and emotional memories are often fake. The central memory gives us the confidence to believe that we remember everything, even though most of the details are made up in our heads. Not only your brain shrinks as you get older, you too shrink dramatically. The bones get more brittle, the backbone gets compressed. A similar thing happens when you rest at night. Your bones kind of relax too. Because of this, you wake up taller in the mornings than you are at the end of the day. Among mammals, only humans can walk on 2 legs for their entire lives. You might think that kangaroos or gorillas move in the same way, but kangaroos use their tail as a 3rd leg, and gorillas use their long arms to keep balance. Your bones take part in metabolism too. Since they mostly consist of calcium, when there's not enough of this element in your blood, bones start shedding it into the bloodstream, balancing your body. The same reaction works in reverse too. When there's too much calcium in your blood, it goes into the bones to be stored for later. The only bone to have a sense of humor in your body is inside your upper arm. That's why it's called the humerus. Okay, I made that one up. Moving along. The only bones that never grow are found in our ears. We can hear thanks to these tiny bones because they have adapted to transmit sound vibrations. Doctors call them the oscular chain. One of these hearing bones, the stapes, is the smallest bone in your entire body. It's no larger than a grain of rice. Our height, shape of our body, and skin color depend a lot on where our ancestors used to live, but we can adapt to new conditions even within our own lifespan. For example, if you move from plains to the mountains, you'll eventually develop more red blood cells to compensate for the lack of oxygen. And naturally, if you move from a colder climate to a hotter and sunnier one, your skin will get darker to adapt. Our lifespan is programmed within ourselves. They constantly renew and divide, but they have a sort of internal timer that stops at some point. Some cells also stop reproducing sooner than others. On average, cells cease dividing when we reach the age of 100. That means, if we could find a way to trick ourselves into turning off the timer, we could potentially live forever. Body fat isn't just a nuisance. It acts as insulation material, energy reserve, and shock absorber. Your body sends the most fat into your waist region because that's where your internal organs are. If something happens to you, this layer of fat might protect your vitals from irreparable damage. Heads up! Your skull isn't a single bone. It actually consists of 28 different bones, many of which are fused together to protect your brain. The mandible, or the lower jaw, is the only skull bone that isn't fixed to the bone around it. It's attached with connective tissues and muscles. This is what makes it so mobile. You can move it in any direction you like. You see, the strongest muscles in your body aren't in your arms or legs. They're in your head. The masseter is the main muscle responsible for chewing, and it needs to be the strongest for you to eat normally. And you know those muscles that allow you to move your ears? Those are temporalis, located above your temples. They also help you chew your food. Now, we've got two really fast muscles. They control the eyelid closing. In fact, they're the fastest muscles in our body. Eyes are fragile and need protection, so the reflex that protects them needs to be as fast as lightning. These muscles can shut the eyelids in less than a tenth of a second. People with double-jointed thumbs can bend them backward. It looks super unusual and very few people can do it. Still, it's totally okay. Even though it looks painful, it actually doesn't hurt at all for someone with a double-jointed thumb. Now, we recognize only purple-blue, green-yellow, and yellow-red colors. Everything else is a combination of these three. It's impossible to calculate how many of these combinations the human eye sees, because every single person has slight vision differences. But it's about 1 million combinations on average. You see? So you have a sixth sense. It tells you where the various parts of your body are in space. Thanks to it, you can walk up a flight of stairs or touch your nose even with your eyes closed. Your vocal cords only produce a buzzing noise. Your nose, mouth, and throat determine what your voice will sound like. If you have a deep voice, your vocal cords are thicker and your cavities are larger than average, letting the sound resonate. By the time you wake up, you'll have forgotten 50% of your latest dream. After 10 minutes, you won't remember 90% of it. When you blush, your stomach lining goes red along with your face. It happens because your sympathetic nervous system's causing an increased blood flow throughout the body. Your hair follicles have the same receptors as your nasal passages. That's why your hair can detect scents too. Sandalwood can help you develop that superpower. Out of 5 million hair follicles on your body, only 100,000 are indeed on your head. An average human will have eaten 35 tons of food over a lifetime. That's like 3 school buses. No matter how hard you'll try, you'll never be able to tickle yourself. It's because your brain prepares the body for tickling and helps you avoid the typical laughing reaction. One human hair is so strong it can hold up to 3.5 ounces. If only the scalp were that strong as well, you'd be able to hold the weight of 2 elephants with your hair. Your eye has 256 unique characteristics, and your fingers, just 40 of them. That's why retinal scanning is more reliable than fingerprint scanning. 50% of your hand strength is in your little finger alone, yet the thumb is the most important finger. You wouldn't be able to grip without it. If you stretch out your arms to the sides, the distance from the middle fingertip of the left hand to that of the right hand is equal to your height. An average human produces enough saliva to fill 2 swimming pools over a lifetime. Hey, dive in! Your spine has a great memory. It remembers your posture, making it so difficult to change it for the better. You owe goosebumps to your ancestors for many years ago. Their hair used to stand up to make them look bigger and scarier to foes. Cats hiss and arch their backs for the same reason. Your left lung is a little smaller than your right lung to make some room for the heart. The right lung has 3 lobes and the left one just 2. Both of them are protected by your rib cage. Next time you get the hiccups, try bending over in a chair. Drinking from the far side of the glass also helps get rid of them. You can easily survive without your appendix, stomach, 1 kidney, or 1 lung. Hey, nice to know we have spare parts. A human eyebrow lives for about 4 months. After that, you get new ones. You, along with other humans, have the superpower of glowing in the dark, especially in the late afternoon. Your face has the strongest glow. Still, it's too dim for your eyes to pick it up unaided. The beating sound of your heart is, in fact, the clap of the valves inside opening and closing. The lyrics for that are lub-dub, lub-dub. You can't breathe and swallow at the same time. While you're breathing, the pipe leading to your stomach shuts down. When you're swallowing, the gateway to your lungs temporarily closes. Under 1% of all people are born with their hearts on the right side of the chest and not the left one. You blink 15 to 20 times per minute or 30,000 times a day. Your eyes have the fastest muscles in your entire body. They slow down to 5 blinks per minute when you're looking at a computer screen. Your eyes owe their color to a pigment called melanin. People with brown eyes have more melanin than green-eyed individuals. If you have blue eyes, it means the eye tissue is completely colorless. Your eyes get color just like water and the sky do. They scatter light and reflect blue light back. The first known person with blue eyes was born in the Stone Age, around 7,000 years ago. I wasn't around then. There are about 3 million sweat glands in your entire body. Many of them are on the soles of your feet and on your palms, forehead, armpits, and cheeks. With every sneeze, the air is traveling out of your nose at a speed of 100 miles per hour. There's no wax in your earwax. It's made of fat, skin cells, sweat, and dirt. Yum! Before you try to get rid of it, remember it protects the ear from bacteria, dirt, and dryness. Stress and fear boost its production. If someone made a camera out of the human eye, it would have a resolution of 576 megapixels. Your brain can hold up to 25 million gigabytes of data. Not my brain. You swallow every minute while you're awake and 3 times per hour when you sleep. That sums up to 600 swallows per day. Gulp. If you're left-handed, you most likely chew on the left side, and if you're right-handed, on the right side. Your fingerprints will always find a way to grow back their unique pattern, no matter how bad you damage them. Every human has a unique pattern of ridges and furrows in their ears. They also sound different, thanks to microscopic hair cells in your inner ears. You need a powerful microphone to pick up the noise they produce. The way you walk is your unique feature. Machines can easily distinguish your individual tiny ticks, bounces, and ways of swinging your legs you use with every step. Your sense of smell helps you taste 80% of the flavor of any food. That's why it seems so dull when you hold your nose or have a snack while traveling by airplane that makes your sense of smell weaker. Women are better at remembering faces and tasks for the future, but easily forget what has been done. It's the opposite for men. Your eyes can change color as you age, or even depending on your mood or dieting habits. 300 billion new cells are born in your body every day. Now that's recycling. Your fingers don't have a single muscle in them. Their joints move thanks to the muscles in the palm and the forearm. Your fingernails grow faster than your toenails. That's because you use them more actively, and they get more sunlight and air. Your eyes send a 2D upside-down image of the world to your brain. It quickly corrects it and turns it into a 3D right-side-up image that it's used to. There's more nerve cells and connections in your brain than there are stars in the Milky Way. If you decided to count them all, it would take you 3,000 years. To make it easier for you, you have around 100 billion neurons in there. The space between your eyebrows is officially called glabella. You're taller in the morning than in the evening. Gravity makes the cartilage around your bones compress over the day, making you shorter by the time you go to bed. In case you're right-handed, your fingernails on the right hand grow faster than your left one. That's because you use this hand more often and are more likely to damage it somehow. Your body's trying to protect it and sends more blood and nutrients its way. If you walk a healthy amount of steps every day, you'll have covered 100,000 miles by the time you're 80. It's like circling the equator 4 times. The largest muscle in your body is the gluteus maximus at the back of the hip, and you're sitting on it. But never mind. The tiniest muscle in your body is in the middle of your ear. Its main purpose is to stabilize the stapes, the tiniest bone in your body. It takes care of transmitting sound waves to your inner ear. You spend about 5 years of your lifetime eating, and 1/3 of your life sleeping. An average adult weighing 150 pounds has a skeleton weighing about 21 pounds, so I guess the remainder is meat and stuff. Your heart beats over 2.5 billion times over your lifetime. Your skin thickness is different throughout the body. You have the thickest skin on the palms of the hands and soles of the feet, and the thinnest is on your eyelids. It takes your skin cells 28 to 30 days to completely renew themselves. Even if you only have less than half of your liver left, it can still regenerate to its original size. Your taste buds only live for 10 to 14 days, then they renew. Then what, everything tastes fresh? Even when you're resting, your brain uses more than 20% of your body's energy to keep it going. The brain's main function of processing and transmitting data is really pricey when it comes to energy costs. Your big toe bears 40% of your body's weight. Without it, running and walking would be slower, shorter, and less efficient. Thanks to zero gravity, your discs in between each vertebra expand when you're in space. That's why you can grow up to 2 inches taller. An average adult body is home to 7 octillion atoms. That's 7 billion billion, or 7 followed by 27 zeros. Do the math. A caterpillar has more muscles than you do. It's 4,400 versus 650. Your peripheral vision is almost completely black and white. It's because you have more color-detecting cones in the center of your retina than at the sides. An average adult human body has enough fat in its cells to produce 7 bars of soap. Your sweat itself doesn't smell like anything. The bacteria living on your skin mix with it and give it that notorious smell. You get red eyes in photos because when the camera flash goes off, your pupils don't have enough time to constrict. A large burst of light reaches your retina and it bounces back. Your legs feel lead-heavy when you're afraid because of the adrenaline that gets in your system. It turns on the fight or flight reaction. Your body sends blood flow to your most needed areas to let you take action and protect yourself. Women can distinguish more colors than men because they have 2 X chromosomes and men only have 1. Even if something is wrong with one of the chromosomes, a woman can still see colors correctly. That's why women are rarely colorblind. No matter how slim or plump you are, you have the same exact amount of fat cells as everyone else. When you work out and diet, they don't go anywhere, but shrink in size and can grow back again. All muscles in your body are connected to bones at 2 ends to be able to pull and create motion. The only exception is your tongue. It's connected to a part of your neck on one side and is free on the other side, so you can make funny sounds. The weird-looking flies you see right in front of your eyes every now and then are eye floaters. You see them because of tiny structural imperfections in one particular part of the eye that get in the way of light. They get worse with age. Oh goody. An average woman speaks about 20,000 words a day, while an average man only speaks 7,000 words. That's because the brain region responsible for language skills and social interactions is larger in females. Your hands and feet alone would look rather creepy. They also contain more than half of the bones in your entire body. Each hand has 27 bones, and each foot has 26. Your thumbs have their own pulse because there are big arteries inside them. That's why you can't feel your pulse in the neck with your thumb. You spend 10% of the time when you're awake with your eyelids closed. It's all those times you're blinking. Humans are capable of using echolocation, like bats and dolphins. With some training, you can find your way in complete darkness, analyzing the surroundings by sounds bouncing off objects. Oh, need to practice that. On average, it takes 7 minutes to fall asleep. There are some techniques to speed up that process to 120 seconds, though. You can physically see your nose, but the brain chooses to ignore it. Otherwise, it would stand in the way of your vision. Plus, it would be out of focus. Around 12% of people can't dream in color. There used to be more of them before color TV had been invented. All your muscles relax at the same time right after you've fallen asleep. Your brain thinks you're about to fall and sends quick signals to all of your muscles to awaken them. That's why it sometimes feels like you're literally falling. You've inherited fingers that get wrinkly from water from your ancestors. It gave them the grip they needed to survive in rainy weather. Your toes get wrinkly too, to let you stand on a wet surface safely. Many centuries ago, people used their wisdom teeth to chew through tough plants and roots. As their brains grew bigger, leaving less space in the mouth, these teeth became the extra ones. Now you can just cook your food and survive without them. Every day, an average woman unknowingly puts on about 515 chemicals on her body. They come from deodorants, shampoos, conditioners, moisturizers, and other beauty products. Most of them are harmless. You can't sneeze when you're sleeping because the nerve cells in your nose that activate sneezing are sleeping too. You can't sense smells in your sleep either. An average person has around 250 hairs per eyebrow, but some lucky fellows have a total of 1,100 hairs. They keep raindrops and sweat from getting in your eyes. Your skeleton completely renews itself every 10 years or so. The process never stops, but slows down with age. That's why your bones become thinner. An adult takes 12 to 16 breaths per minute. It adds up to a total of 17,000 to 23,000 breaths daily. If you stretch your entire network of blood vessels, its length would be enough to circle the Earth twice. That's over 60,000 miles, and you would be very sore if you did that. Women have more taste buds on their tongues than men. 35% of women are super tasters and have more than 30 taste buds in the space the size of a hole punch on their tongue. That's an interesting comparison. Sugar is sweeter and sodium is saltier to them. Blondes have the biggest number of hair follicles, around 146,000. Second place belongs to black-haired people. They have 110,000 follicles. If you have brown hair, there are around 100,000 hair follicles on your head. With an average of 86,000 follicles, redheads have the least dense hair. As you age, your feet might get bigger, but it doesn't mean your bones are growing. It happens due to weight gain and loose ligaments that make your feet flatter and wider over time. When you have that stomach in your throat feeling on a roller coaster, some of your organs are really shifting. It happens to your intestines and stomach, which are connected rather loosely and is harmless. It says here. Your teeth have enamel on the outside that makes them just as strong as a shark's. They aren't as sharp, though. Your hair can stretch about 30% of its length when wet. Your brain constantly needs oxygen and uses 20% of its reserves in your body. When you're trying to solve some problem, it can even use more oxygen, up to 50%. If you decided to smooth out all the wrinkles in your brain, it'd be a flat surface the size of a pillowcase. As you're listening to music, your heartbeat syncs with the rhythm. Faster tempos make it beat faster. Your diaphragm sometimes twitches, which makes you suddenly intake more air. Your throat closes and interrupts the intake. This is how hiccups work. Unlike what every space movie tells you, you won't instantly freeze if you got into open space without a suit. Space vacuum is a great insulator, so you would retain your heat for some time. Just don't make a habit of it. The atoms in your body are billions of years old. Nearly all of them were made in a star, and many have come through several supernovas. It makes you a big chunk of stardust. Scientists still don't know why humans yawn. The most popular theory says it happens to cool down your brain and regulate body temperature. Humans are the only animals that have chins. Even chimpanzees and gorillas have lower jaws that slope down and back from their front teeth. When you're breathing, most of the air is going through one of the nostrils. After a few hours, it starts going through the other, and they keep switching like that. Your nose can pick up about 1 trillion smells with 400 different types of scent receptors. The sound you hear while cracking knuckles are gas bubbles bursting in your joints. Ooh, more fun body sounds. You burn calories when you're just breathing, watching TV, and even sleeping. By the time you turn 60, you will have lost almost half of your taste buds. That's why most elderly people don't notice the unusual or bitter taste. It only takes you 0.05 seconds to recognize a sound. That's 10 times faster than blinking. It's virtually impossible to destroy a human hair. Water, cold, and corrosion can do nothing to it. The only way to go is to set it on fire. Nah, don't do that. Around 1% of people are missing a special lens in the eye and can see ultraviolet. Famous Impressionist painter Claude Monet belonged to that 1%. When you sleep in a new place, half of your brain stays awake. Thanks to that, you'll be able to quickly get up if you have to protect yourself from something or someone. The way your sneeze sounds depends on your nose size. The larger the nose, the bigger the sneeze, because more air can go in and out. All the strangers from your dreams are real people you've met at some point in real life. You just didn't remember them. Unlike other cells, neurons can't replace themselves. If you type 60 words per minute for 8 hours a day, it would take you 50 years to type the human genome. That sounds like a big waste of time. There's a name for the dip between your upper lip and nose. It's philtrum. Some people can navigate using the magnetic field of the planet, just like birds. Me? Nah, I can barely use my GPS.